Hello everybody and welcome back to Typical City. Breaking news here, heard first on Typical City right here. Like and subscribe because Josko Gvardiol is officially a Manchester City player. Incredible news, incredible news. Now, I have gone on about this throughout the whole transfer window. I have said it's going to happen ever since Fabrizio Romano said that he has the information, he has the lowdown on what is going on with Gvardiol. A deal was agreed some time ago, and when he says those words, here we go, you got to believe him. You have to believe him. Now, numerous of you did come to me and point out many different scenarios of how this isn't going to happen, and City are having their pants pulled down and being bent over a barrel by RB Leipzig. Now, the words "I told you so," now how do you tell someone "I told you so"? You know, you can do it in a funny, hilarious joke, or do you just not say it at all? Because saying it at all would be a bit petty and a bit immature. Probably the funny way. That's the way I'd do it. I told you so. I told you so. What did I say? Josko Gvardiol. This is what happens when you listen to the people in the know. Or you choose to listen to the children on Twitter, the part-time journalists or the people in the know, the Fabrizio Romanos of this world, the journalists who have a proven track record, or the moronic children who live their lives on Twitter spouting their nonsense and you lap it up and believe it. Take your pick. Okay, I know which side I'm picking and I know who I want to believe, and it's Fabrizio Romano because he's done it again. He has done it again. Josko Gvardiol is officially a City player. Incredible news, and the defence now is just ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Even if the likeliness is Laporte's probably going to leave, it's outrageous. Absolutely incredible defence that we've got. The great big blue wall of Manchester has been built. Who's knocking that down? Who is knocking that down right now? It's a frightening prospect for any opposition to come up against us. And so, I mean, just picture Arsenal, United, Chelsea. What are they thinking looking at this deal? And I mean, even going into next season, last season, even if you cling on to top spot as long as Arsenal did last season and get as close to a title as they did last season. Last season, City were on top of the table for 13 days. 13 days. That's the record of a team that has won the league with the fewest amount of days on the top of the league. The second place team to ever do it was in 2002, and that was United, and they were on top for 31 days. We were on top of 13 days and we won the league. Do you know what I mean? That is mental capacity that is unseen, unrivaled, unmatched in the Premier League. You don't see teams spend so little time on the top and still have so much confidence to go and win the league. It's frightening for everybody else. It's genuinely frightening. But Gvardiol has brought something now to the table that's just going to be terrifying and petrifying for the rest of the league. And we're talking about a complete package now. An absolute frightening prospect. An insidious defender. A defender with so much equanimity that is just like, it's just so composed on the ball without being overly ostentatious either. You know, he's got equanimity, insidious, ostentatious. Get your thesauruses out, boys. You're being schooled today by Dr. Johnny. Get your thesauruses out. But I mean, the player is the complete package. That's the ultimate statement you can make about him. One thing that I will highlight is his ability on the ball is what people are focusing on. And I think he is incredible, but no one really talks about his defending ability as much as they should do. The crunching tackles, the bone-crunching tackles that this guy puts in. We're talking about a blend of like Laporte for me or John Stones, those types of players who are on the ball are fantastic. They put in good tackles, but then you talk about Ruben Diaz, Nicolas Otamendi type of tackling. You know, there's people who are ready to get their nose broken in half. People who would come on with the bandages round their head, blood dripping down their eyebrows. They don't give a shit. They will smash you. They will absolutely smash you. But put their ball at their feet and they will be composed. Cool as a cucumber. You're unfazed, totally unfazed. Give him the ball and he'll burst past you. He's got one of the highest take-on records in the league for the Bundesliga. Last season he had an 89% pass completion rate in the Bundesliga. And now the one area that I think needs working on is his tackle percentage, which is 64%. But I mean, the guy got 2 yellow cards. So in terms of tackle, it might be trying to intercept or nipping in. 64% is really good, really good. But in terms of like being an elite defender, that's the one area. He's 21. He's 21 years old, but that is the one area that needs to bump it up a little bit. Just bump that tackle percentage up a little bit. 2 yellow cards last season. 2 yellow cards. Now that's the sign of a good defender, like a player that doesn't get booked. You can say someone who doesn't get stuck in, which is totally wrong. If you think that, you've not watched him play, because some of the tackles are just devastating for the opposition. Jude Bellingham, when he was at Borussia Dortmund, just Google that. The guy's feet were pointing to the moon when he'd finished that tackle. He was just up his arse, just like completely out, just battered, went through him like a knife through butter, and won the ball cleanly. 2 yellow cards. The sign of a good defender is a defender that comes off with totally clean shorts, a clean shirt, not a speck of grass or a speck of mud on their kit, basically, you know, that type of player. And he doesn't need to lunge in because he reads the game. He sees the full picture. He will backtrack when necessary, and he'll step forward and intercept when he senses it. He smells blood. He smells a weakness in the opposition's attack as they bring in the ball forward. He will intercept it and steal that ball, and then he'll keep that ball. And if there's no one to pass it to, he'll turn around, he'll keep the ball, and he'll protect it for the rest of his opposition. It's a scary prospect for the rest of the league. I think we've signed, probably going to go on to be one of the great defenders of the Premier League. If we can keep him for as long as I think we're planning on keeping him, because I mean he's had a short career so far. Started at Dynamo Zagreb at 2019. That's not even that. 4 years ago he was at Dynamo Zagreb. Then RB Leipzig sign him for 16 million euros plus add-ons. And that 16 million euros that they paid was the highest ever paid for a Croatian teenager defender. So they know what they're doing, RB Leipzig. They have got an amazing recruitment policy. Numerous players, Szoboszlai and Kuku, numerous players have come through this particular crop of players and produced a high level of quality, all now working their way into the Premier League. And now Gvardiol is one of them. Gvardiol is a Manchester City player. And what do we do with that defence now? What do we do with that defence? That's where we move the conversation to now. Not is he or is he not signing. That's done. City player. Cha-ching. Get in the back of the net, Mr. Josko Gvardiol. But where's he going to play? Who's not playing now? Because it's cruel. This is the cruel game that we play. Ake, you feel for him. I feel like it's him. He's going to be the player that's most likely to be, I wouldn't say dropped. Dropped is a harsh word, but we're talking about rotation now, aren't we? And Pep obviously has ideas for certain players who play against certain types of opposition. I think Ake is going to be that player that is probably watching over his shoulder a little bit because of Josko Gvardiol signing. And I think that's why we signed the contract for Nathan Ake as soon as we did, to indicate that he is going to play. And we've signed the contract for, extended his contract. Nathan Ake is now, I think it's till 2027. So we've got Nathan Ake for the foreseeable future. And we did that before this Gvardiol deal goes through. And I think that was sensible business. I think it was good PR management, the protection of the club, protection of the players' feelings and the image of that particular player, because now you've already killed the potential headlines that will come out. Well, who's not playing? They're going to stir the pot. The media will stir the pot. Oh, they've got all these defenders. Who's not playing? We know Laporte is the one who's expendable in the transfer market. He is now going to be that player that leaves. Forget Laporte, not in a disrespectful way, because Laporte doesn't need forgetting. We need to remember what he's done for the club. We cannot forget that, because the player was an incredible asset to Manchester City, an incredible performer and servant for Manchester City. But the likelihood of him leaving now is shot through the roof. Who to? We're not too sure yet. Wait to see. We're going to find out shortly, I'd imagine. I think this is the stepping stone for Laporte's next chapter in his life and his story, his career. So we're going to see what happens to Laporte. But in terms of the players that are going to be at Manchester City next season, if we're playing the three at the back, I think Diaz is the middle. It will always be the middle, because he is the out-and-out defending defender who will not as good as the rest on the ball. The two outside of Diaz tend to have more freedom on the ball, and they're given that freedom by Pep to express themselves and play with a little bit more freedom. Ake and Akanji's been doing it. Even John Stones has dropped in. Kyle Walker recently in pre-season played as one of the three in the centre-backs. Will he still be at City? His question marks have not been answered yet. So for me, being the left-footed defender that is Gvardiol, he is going to be on the left-hand side. I'm almost certain of that. Now, I think he could play as left-back if we went to 4 at the back. I think out of the two of Ake and Gvardiol, I would rather see Gvardiol play left-back. I know we've seen Ake play left-back, but Gvardiol's got more experience at left-back. He started his career at Dynamo Zagreb as left-back, even as a centre midfielder, which is why Pep signed him, because he's played as centre midfielder already in his short career that it is. This guy's got like 4 years. Do you know what I mean? 4-year career so far, that's it. And he's got such a unbelievable future ahead of him. But left back, centre midfielder, centre back, even left wing. The guy can play in multiple positions. You're never going to see him play left wing for City. Obviously, I'm talking about his past. But in terms of defensive midfielder, that's a realistic possibility for him. In terms of Rodri, Stones, Gvardiol, Rico Lewis is all played in that position, which does not bode well for Calvin Phillips, unfortunately, because I've just listed 4 players that can all play. Kovacic, also make that the 5th player that can play in defensive midfielder ahead. And I would personally pick all those names I've just named ahead of Calvin Phillips. But sticking with Gvardiol, the versatility's there. You know, he's malleable. He can play in so many different positions. I do think he could probably play as a right side of the 3. In a 3 centre-backs, and maybe we're forced to do that with injuries that might happen during the course of the season. But I do think Ake is the one who's probably going to suffer because of the Gvardiol arrival. I think that's the most likely scenario, that Ake is going to be in and out between Gvardiol. Maybe Gvardiol plays an out-and-out centre-back if Ruben Diaz is out injured or something like that. But the options are there. But for me, it would be Gvardiol, Ruben Diaz, and probably Akanji. Just because of his performances last season. Akanji was just ridiculous. There was a moment, I watched back the FA Cup final the other day, and talking of Akanji, there was the very last moment of the game. We're talking like the 94th minute in the FA Cup final against United. A ball was lumped up, and I think it was Garnacho who was sprinting towards this long looping ball that was a nightmare for a defender to deal. In the last second of the game, all they needed was an equaliser and we're going to extra time and penalties. And Akanji just gets himself underneath the ball and just nods it back to Edison. The composure of Akanji is underrated. We talk about Akanji as a defender. I think he's a tank. A tank that can move with the ball. You know, I think he was not disrespected, but underrated in his performances last season, as was Ake. You talk about these players, I just keep saying them. I'm like, who's getting past? And adding all this is just is another addition to the philosophy that Pep introduced last season. You think about the Champions League, and I think this philosophy of 3 at the back is for winning the Champions League, and hence why we won the Champions League final last season. And all those moments we talk about, getting knocked out to Monaco, knocked out to Real Madrid, Spurs, just disgusting results that were so unwarranted and undeserved, because we were, all 3 of those games, we were the better side, created the most chances, and we weren't clinical enough. And games like that in a knockout stage are moments. And having a solid defence that's impenetrable reduces the odds. It lowers the chances for the opposition to create those moments that come out of nothing. Those 1-goal moments that just sniff from nothing. And we conceded silly goals out of nothing. And reducing that by having a solid defence and winning games 1-0 is okay. It's okay. We don't have to win 3-4-0 every game. Champions League final. Perfect example of this philosophy and how we battened down the hatches, pulled up the drawbridge in the last 10 minutes of the game, and we said, bring it, rain down a fire of hell into Milan and bring whatever you've got to bring, because this wall is not breaking. You are not getting past this Manchester City defence. And we cleared everything off the line. Edison with some fantastic saves, Ruben Diaz clearing it just past the post, some last-ditch defending, really good defensive performances, and now you've added Josko Gvardiol to that defence, and it's just what? Who's getting past that? And I think we're going to see a little less entertainment, maybe. I think we will wipe the floor with some teams, but I would rather win the game than be on an annoying 3-3 draw. The game against Newcastle, second game of last season, was infuriating. We hadn't implemented this new philosophy as well at that point. We were conceding silly moments and goals that were just giving away from nothing. Whereas throughout the season, the defence and the team as on the whole learned this Pep philosophy to just shut up shop when needed, defend when needed. We don't have to go forward at every opportunity and leave ourselves vulnerable at the back. Just win the game. Just win the game. And we're doing it now. I think even Pep will hold his hands up and say, I've learned lessons during my time at the Premier League. And I don't think that he's too shameless to say those things. I think he would admit that, you know, and it's just immense. It's just immense. But what do you guys think? What do you guys think? I'm pretty sure most of you are going to be happy about the Josko Gvardiol deal. It's an incredible bit of business. The fact that we've gotten cheaper than Harry Maguire, keeping that image of not paying over the odds for players, and the boardroom just deserves so much credit for this deal that we've all, me included, I've not panicked that we wouldn't get the deal over the line. I was more than confident that the deal was already done. In fact, the issue for me was, if it's not done, just give them that little bit extra. My desperation seeped out into the public, and I was like, just pay a little bit more. So what? Just pay a little bit more. City didn't panic. Cool, composed, across the table, at the negotiation table, they did not flinch. They did not twitch. One muscle didn't move in that negotiation deal. They stood ground and just said, nope, 77 million. That's what we're paying. Take it or leave it. And it went on and on and on, and we all panicked, like, oh no, they're not going to get it done, oh, we're being bent over a barrel, and deal done. RB Leipzig, they caved, they cracked, they allowed the deal to happen, they accepted the deal, they shook our hands, and we now have Josko Gvardiol as a Manchester City player. So well done, Cheeky Bergenstein, well done Ferran Soriano and Khaldoon Mubarak. The boardroom deserve a massive appreciation from City fans, because now I think we have to admit that they know what they're doing. Numerous of you have said that they don't know what they're doing and it's a poor transfer window. Well, eat your words. Eat your words, because this is now an example of a club, an impeccably ran football club. Fantastic stuff. But Blues, get in the comments below. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the signing. Like and subscribe. Typical City is the channel, and I'll see you in the next one.
This is Typical City now, holding up silverware.